Well, I was born and raised on a dairy farm. A cow is what eventually got me to college, and then I married a dairy farmer, and now I work within the business. So it's no secret, people, that I love butter. So be indulgent with me today as I tell you the story about my youngest son, who also loves butter. There's this restaurant where he would go and eat, and they'd have these wonderful rolls with this yummy butter coating. He says, "Mom, you got to figure out how to do that." So I tinkered in my kitchen, and I added a little bit of this and I added a little bit of that. Not that I was very smart about it, but I was willing to try. And then when all else failed, what'd I do? I Googled it. And by golly, I found all kinds of wonderful recipes, came back to my kitchen, did a little more of this, take away that, add that, until voila, at the end, we had the recipe that my son was going to enjoy. And it has been lots of fun, provided me the opportunity to give gifts. And that's what you see here today is I've just got some of my rolls that I've made up, and then I've coated them with a pastry brush with this very flavorful butter. And then here it is in a specialty jar that I can give out as gifts too. So I guess today on the headlines, it's butter. Well, you're going to need the food processor for this recipe. And although it's big and cumbersome and it's hard to find a place to store these things, they are extremely necessary, at least in my kitchen. Maybe you found likewise. But now I've already put in the butter, and it called for 1 cup of butter, and that's hard for some of the beginning cooks to learn, that 1 cup of butter is actually 2 sticks. So I've got 2 sticks, and it's very important that this butter is softened. You'll want to leave it sit out at room temperature for an hour or so, and that will give you the softened butter texture that you so need for this recipe. And then with that, we're going to add in, get this, sweetened condensed milk. Who would have thought? But that's going to give it that lovely sweet taste. And don't mind me, I'm going to use my finger because I want to show you that when you use something like sweetened condensed milk, be sure to spray and coat the inside of your measuring cup with some non-stick cooking spray. And then that way when you turn it out, you get every little morsel of that sweetened condensed milk or whatever product you're working with that's kind of sticky. Then also, we're going to want some corn syrup. And this is light corn syrup. And you're only going to need about a half a teaspoon. Guess what I did? I also coated this with some of that non-stick cooking spray. And I'll put it right in there, set this aside, and then look, it just turns out so much easier. You'll like doing that. Maybe most of you knew that, but that's a little tip I learned over the years. And then we're going to want about 3/4 of a teaspoon to a teaspoon of cinnamon. But you know what? I have 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I found that we loved the sweet and nutty flavor of nutmeg. So I put a little nutmeg in here, and that's all there is to it. So let me put the lid on, and we're going to get started here and give it a little pulse first. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to stop the processor because the butter's kind of softened and mixed in there, but I think I see a little bit of that cinnamon, nutmeg, and flavor around the sides, and I want to be sure and stir that down to make sure that that's a part of the finished product. So I'm just going to mix that in a little bit, and then we'll give it a little more. If you could smell this, it's great. I love nutmeg and cinnamon together. Great aroma, plus it's got all the goodness of butter in it. So let's try it again. And the actual pulsing process in the beginning will probably be about 25 seconds. And then it's just your own good intuition on how much longer it should go. So when it's all done, mixing and blending all of those wonderful flavors together, well, not that many, there's only about 4 or 5, so this is easy. We're just going to reach in here with our spatula. If you want to, you can go ahead and take out the little blade here too and clean it off, because we don't want to leave anything behind. It might be easier rather than working around that blade. Just put that over here, and we're going to pack the jar. As you can see, I've just got some of the crystal quilted jars, and look on top, I had some scrapbook paper that I used to kind of give the lid a little more of a seasonal look, but we're just going to pack it in the jar, and you'll find that almost all of it will fit in ever so nicely using a small spatula, except you're going to have just a little bit left. And you know what you should do? You should just make some toast, spread it on, sit back, grab a cup of coffee with some milk, of course, and enjoy the rest of your day. And it's what I always say, the two most important ingredients in cooking are caring and sharing. Invite a friend over. I'm sure you'll both enjoy this.